2 Chronicles 11:14 through 16 says, "For the Levites left their pasture lands and their property, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem, for Jeroboam and his sons had excluded them from serving as priests to the Lord. He set up priests of his own for the high places, for the satyrs, and for the calves at which he had made. And those from all the tribes of Israel who set their hearts on seeking the Lord God of Israel followed them to Jerusalem to sacrifice to the Lord God of their fathers." Well, if you're joining us in reading through this 90-day reading plan, today's reading is 2 Chronicles chapter 11, and I encourage you to read that passage. Well, Jeroboam recognized that if the Levites were allowed to continue to minister, they would push all of the people to Jerusalem, where the temple was, rather than setting up the new worship in Samaria. So he simply removed the Levites from the worship and set up his own worship leaders. Well, this is exactly how cults begin. They think that they have something new so that they might take some of the old religion, but then add some of their own flavor to it with their own theology and develop their own traditions. It's at this point they claim that they are restructured or reformed from the old tradition, and people should follow them. This is not only what happened in Israel and Judaism, but also in Christianity. Throughout Christian history, there's been a set of people who have broken off from the church and made their own form of Christianity. And in doing so, some of them even were true followers of the original faith left, and they became followers of the cult tradition. Tertullian, who was in 155 to 240 AD, is probably one of the prime examples. He left the church and followed the Montanist cult. We have to be very careful when we hear different theology. You may sound truthful, but in reality it's something else. And just because something calls himself a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that they hold to the doctrines to which the church has held throughout the centuries. We should be wary of when people come up with new ideas or new theological definitions and descriptions. We must always look back at what the scriptures teach and also what the church fathers taught in the early centuries of the church. The scriptures are primary, but sometimes they can be manipulated by people who want to talk a good game. If we look back into the early church history, we generally can find a discussion about some kind of similar theology. In the 19th century, a group of people called Jehovah's Witnesses claimed that they had found the true Christian religion, and yet if you look at their theology, the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and the First Council of Constantinople in 381 AD both condemned their theology and whatever they hold to. We must not be fooled by smooth talking. We must hold fast to that which has been taught for 2,000 years.